morning, teacher, and we hope you and your family are good. And today we are going to talk and explain about the complex sentence parts. I'm going to talk about the independent clause. So we are going to pass to the next slide. Okay, we are going to read the information. Compound complex sentences part. Independent clause, as its name says, this type of clause don't depend on another, so they can stand by themselves as a complex sentence, thanks to the fact that they are going completely meaningful. The sentences are called coordinate clause when they are in the compound complex sentence. So, in my opinion, an independent clause is a group of words and it contains both a subject and a predicate. And like we can see in the examples that we did for you, the first example says, although he has to study, he's lying on the sofa watching TV and he's going to fail the exam. The second one, I love listening to music while I am doing my homework, but I get distracted. So, the first independent clause is he is lying on the sofa watching TV. And another one is the he's going to fail the exam. Those are the independent clause in the first example. In the second one example is the is I love to listen to music, and the next independent clause is I get this threat. So we're going to pass to the next slide. Okay, now we have the dependent clause. On the other hand, a dependent clause is a group of words with a subject and a verb. It doesn't express a complete thought, so it is not a sentence and can stand alone. A dependent clause can be usually identified because they are preceded by a word such as a why, if, and because. So we are going to see the examples. The first one is the same of the last slide. Although he has to study, he is lying on the sofa watching TV and he's going to fail the exam. And the second one, I love to listen to music while I'm doing my homework, but I get distracted. So if you see teacher, we have reading the example of the other slide, and like we see in the first example, the depend clause is although he has to study. And in the second example, we can identify that the pen clause is why I am doing my homework. But why we have identified those are the independent clause? Because they have a preceded word before them, which are, like we can see in the first example, the preceded word is although, and the second one is why, like the description says. Now we are going to pass to the next slide. Okay, now we have conjunction, and these little words are the ones that help us to join and link one sentence with another, making them larger and more complex. And there are different types of conjunction, and there are also a wide variety of conjunction. But we'll see the most relevant, those that we'll find and need to create a compound complex sentence. Um, Pass the another slide. Okay, conjunction, coordinate conjunction. This conjunction help us to create other short phrases too, and they are very well known by the acronym fanboys. Okay, we know each letter of the word fanboys means a word like F for A M and nor be bad or why yet and as so. And now we have an example. She must have been starving or she ate everything immediately. We can see we have to use one conjunction and in this case is 4. Now it's going to pass my classmate.
Hello, teacher, classmates. I am going to explain about subordinating conjunctions. These conjunctions are the ones that work as an introduction to the dependent clause, and they are a great key to identify them in a compound complex sentence. Subordinating conjunctions help us to find where the dependent clause is, and would have an example. I'm staying in because it's snowing and I don't want to get a cold. In this example, we have the subordinating conjunction that is because, and after we have our dependent clause. We have several subordinating conjunctions such as after, although, has, because, before, even if, even though, if, in order to, just to mention a few. Next slide, please. Now we have the steps to write compound complex sentence. We have step number one, that is independent clause. Number two, related independent clause. Number three, dependent clause. Number four, conjunctions. And we have coordinating and subordinating conjunctions that we have to implement. Next slide, please. Now let's see the step number one that we must to follow if we want to create a compound complex sentence. That is that we have to have an independent clause. This is the main idea that will hold the rest of the thought and must prevail about the other sentence. So let's get a main idea to start our sentence. Okay, the first thing that we need for our sentence, it's an independent clause. And as my classmate was saying, an independent clause, it's a sentence that can stand alone because has a completely meaningful. And we have an example. I take a walk every day. In this example, we have our subject, verb, and our complement. So that's the first step. Next slide, please. Step number two, related independent clause. Now we need to build a second independent idea. This new sentence may continue the actions previously started or simply create a new action and even contradict, but it must be related. Okay, a compound complex sentence we must include at least two independent clauses. So this one is another independent clause that must follow or first independent clause. And this one can create a new action or can contradict or last sentence. And we have an example. It was snowing today.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. So, getting back on track. The step number three, we have the dependent clause. In this third step, we'll create a dependent clause, but keeping in mind that the two previous sentences that we have and the main idea, which is this clause may provide additional and specific details about the thought that is being expressed. Okay, first of all, we must remember that dependent clause, it is a sentence, but it does not express a complete thought. So we need from the independent one and the independent relative one to make a full complex sentence. And in step 4, conjunctions. Now we need to put all together the parts that we built. And for what? That we need coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions. let's see what we have so far. The first one it was I take a walk every day. The second one was it was snowing today. And the third one, the sun sets. So we have the full sentence with the coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions. As you may see, under of that says independent clause, and dependent clause, and the middle one is the dependent one clause. So I take a walk every day. While is the subordinating conjunction we're using on this. The sun sets, but which is one of the fanboys coordinating conjunction that we are needing on this. It was snowing today. So we have full complex compound sentence. I take a walk every day while the sun sets, but it was snowing today. It makes sense, right? Okay. Examples. We have a few examples here, and I'm gonna try to read them. Sabrina doesn't like book stories since they are lengthy, so she doesn't read them. So the first sentence that we have here, which is the independent one, is Sabrina doesn't like the book stories. And after that, we are using a subordinating conjunction since they are lengthy, so she doesn't read them. And the third one is the indirect independent clause. The second example says Rachel has a bountiful vegetable garden, so she is always outside when it is sunny. I think you may already understood the idea of this. The first one we have the independent clause in the second example, right? Rachel has bountiful vegetable garden, so she's always outside. That's the second independent clause, which is the relative to the first one, right? Outside, when it's sunny. Outside, we're using outside as a subordinating conjunction. When it is sunny. And the third example, though Jay prefers watching romantic films, he rented the latest spy thriller and he enjoyed it very much. Something that I'm not exactly sure if my classmate mentioned it is that we can put the dependent clause at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end, and it doesn't matter if we're respecting the use of subordinating conjunctions and correlative conjunctions. For example, here it is on the first place. It's at the beginning, right? Though Jay prefers watching romantic films, movies, he rented the latest spy thriller, and which is the coordinating conjunction, he enjoyed it very much. And just like that, the fourth example says Casey forgot her friend's birthday, so she sent her a card when she finally remembered. And the fifth one says my sister went to home because it was getting later, but she had to wait on the entrance of the house until my mom got home anyway. Okay, and that has been all. Hope you guys understood anything and like. Thank you.